2015 BYU Football Media Day. We have an incredible lineup today, starting with these web chats. After that, we have State of the Program at 11 Eastern Time, then a special 2-hour BYU Sports Nation at noon. Catch another hour of live web chats with current players and coaches at 1. And at 4 Eastern Time, a BYU special called 4 Decades of Dominance that I promise you won't want to miss. Then another glorious hour of web chats. Join the conversation anytime using hashtag BYU Media Day. We're going to start the day off with these two young gentlemen. I did call you young.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
Thanks for that.
Mikel Minor, the senior coordinating producer for BYU TV Sports, and Duff Tittle, the Associate Athletic Director for BYU. You guys have had a huge hand in getting BYU Media Day started. What's it like that it's already here?
Well, this is a culmination of a lot of planning that started months ago and does every year. It's interesting for me personally because this was my first event that I worked on when I came back to BYU after my career back east with ESPN. And so this is nostalgic for me to be doing, what, the 5th?
Yeah.
National Media Day for BYU. So it's an incredible day. A lot of planning goes into this. Duff and I have been talking about this for actually an entire year. The 4 Decades of Dominance show that you talked about was a show concept that we talked about a year ago. So it's going to be great to see that actually come to fruition.
I'm just glad the day is here.
I bet. Like we said, it's BYU's 5th Media Day as an independent. Why does BYU have its own Media Day, Duff?
Well, you know, when you're involved in a conference, you get to go to the conference media day, and they do all the work, they put it on. All you do is just determine your coach and which player you're going to bring and book the ticket and go. So it's pretty easy. You just show up. Here, we get to plan what we want to do, and we can bring whoever we want. And typically, you'll bring 1 player or 2 players to a media day at a conference level. Here, we get to bring 15, 20 guys. So it's great. We love it. It's super to be here.
I would imagine there are a lot of challenges. Michael, from a broadcast side, what are some of the challenges that you face planning something like this?
Well, when you have so much live production that's happening, that's always the biggest challenge. When you're talking about a full day of really live event programming, and this is live, so the production for these live web chats, and then we've got the live linear shows that we're going to be doing, starting with State of the Program and then the 4 Decades of Dominance. You've got a 2-hour BYU Sports Nation that's simulcast nationally on both TV and radio. I just don't think there's any other university in the country that does this type of production for its media day, for a full day event. So there's an incredible amount of preparation that goes into that.
Duff, from the athletic side, what are some of the challenges you face putting together this media day?
I think our biggest challenge this year is that the 4 Decades of Dominance show that Michael referred to this afternoon. We tried to bring in about 80 former players from all over the country. And just the logistics of that was a lot more than we had anticipated. So we've been scrambling, just trying to make sure who's coming and where do we put them. And it's going to be a great show. I'm really looking forward to that show this afternoon.
What was that like trying to reach out to all those guys? And what was that process, finding 80 guys to come here for this day?
Well, it was hard because sometimes the email addresses aren't correct and the phone numbers have changed. And so, but it was really cool to reconnect with all those guys. And even those that couldn't come because they had scheduling conflicts, it was great to hear back from them and to see how excited they were that we were connecting, and they're proud that they played here. And, you know, so I'm sure there's a lot of guys that are going to be watching that show that couldn't come, but, you know, we'll get them down the road.
Well, we mentioned a lot of the fun things that are coming up today. Give us a little bit of a preview on what we can expect.
Well, we've got, like you said in the opening, there's a lot of web chats going on throughout the day. We brought back players for 2 different shows that'll be live. Plus, as Michael said, we got the Sports Nation show, which is always a lot of fun. I think Cougar fans just need to settle in, get some popcorn, you know, and get ready, because this could be a great day of a lot of entertainment.
Michael, from a broadcast standpoint, what is the thing you're most excited about today?
Well, I am excited about 4 Decades of Dominance because it's to bring, as Duff said, to bring that many former Cougar greats back to campus, and some of them for the first time since they suited up, you know, playing for the Cougars, to bring them back here, for them to see this magnificent facility that we have, and for them to just take part in this day is a celebration to me. I mean, I've been involved with BYU Sports, televising BYU Sports for 30 years now, and I remember all of these players, you know, and to see them again and to be able to interact with them is just a dream come true for me. I'm really looking forward to that.
So both of you are BYU alum, and so I'm sure you're big fans of a lot of these guys, like you said, coming in. Who are you most excited to see, Michael?
Well, you know, really some of the players that I haven't seen, you know, since they played here. Omar Morgan is one that this is going to be the first time I think he's been back to campus since he played and made that electrifying interception in the Cotton Bowl, the 1996 Cotton Bowl. And, you know, Dennis Pitta is always fun to have. Ty Detmer, the Heisman Trophy winner, being here and interacting with him. And there's just too many to name. I'm just like a kid in a candy store.
Duff, you were the one who had to contact those 80 guys, but who are you most looking forward to seeing?
Well, I mean, we're just getting rolling, right? And I've already talked to Ty Detmer and Dewey Gray and Omar Morgan and Chris Hoke and Chad Lewis. You know, I mean, it's just incredible. As a kid growing up here locally and as a BYU fan, I mean, it's unbelievable that I'm going to get to see some of these guys I've never met. You know, we have Jeff Blank coming in that played back in the mid-'70s. I've never met him, and that's going to be a really cool thing. I remember watching him play, you know, when I was sitting in the end zone with the Knothole gang. And this is going to be a great day. Really, it is. I'm excited.
You guys mentioned this incredible facility and how unique of an experience it is to be here at BYU and have that association with your own broadcast station. Duff, explain what the relationship is like between BYU Athletics and BYU TV Sports.
Well, it's phenomenal. And, you know, as we talked about the possibilities of independence a few years ago, it really probably doesn't happen without the great broadcast partners that we have. And this building that was built just in time for us to consider that, because without it, we couldn't have gone and gotten the exposure that we so desperately felt we needed as a program. And to bring in a partner like ESPN right out of the gate, and to have BYU Television producing over 100 live games a year, and shows like Sports Nation and After Further Review, it's unreal. And like Michael said earlier, no school in the country is doing it like we're doing it. At least not to the reach. To be in nearly 60 million homes is unbelievable. And Cougar Nation knows it. Right? They love it. They follow it. They're avid about BYU sports, and we're just grateful that we have the ability to do that and to bring the games to our fan base. And it's only because of the partnerships that we have with BYU Television, BYU Radio, like I mentioned, ESPN. It's an incredible thing. We're very fortunate, BYU Athletics.
Michael, Duff mentioned After Further Review, BYU Sports Nation, Countdown to Kickoff. Those are some of the things the fans have been able to enjoy in the past. What can we look forward to seeing more of this year?
Well, we've got some tricks up our sleeve. We've got some ideas. Let's go back to the fact that this is so unique, because you know that's the thing that we hear time after time as people come and see this facility is there's nothing like this that exists anywhere else in the country. And I know I've said that a lot in the 5 years that I've been back, but it's just so true and relevant. Duff and I just happened to be back at a industry summit, a broadcasting industry summit in Atlanta, where we were fortunate to receive collaboratively a leadership award for innovation in broadcasting from our peers, both on the athletic side and the broadcast side. And there are only two other schools that have received this recognition, and that's Notre Dame and Oklahoma. So that's pretty elite company for us to be in. Yeah. And to be recognized, you know, just unsolicited for, you know, our innovation and technology and content and bringing this type of fantastic programming to our fans globally. Because BYU has a global fan base, and that's what makes it possible.
Talk a little bit about that experience you guys had at the SVG Awards going to Atlanta. What was that like representing BYU to receive this award, Duff?
It was incredible, and it was my first event. Michael had been before, and he'd told me about how great it was, and it was an outstanding conference. There was a lot that was discussed, and you get to see what your peers are doing around the country, impressive things that are happening. But then you come home, walk in this building, and go, oh yeah, but no one has this. So we feel blessed, grateful, excited. One of the things I love about working together is that we can dream things and then turn around and make them happen. You know, all the shows that we've talked about were at one time a concept that we discussed either over the phone, over lunch, in a meeting, and you know, there's always that idea of why not? You know, if we can dream it, we can do it. So that's a really unique opportunity for us.
And what's interesting about dreaming it is the staff that you have is 60 to 70% students, at least here at BYU TV. Michael, take us a little bit backstage of how these productions work with that student staff.
Well, that's exactly right. And that's, you know, going back to the SVG Summit, that was a key point that was discussed by all of the schools and the networks is how we can involve students in a more immersive process as they develop their skills for potentially getting into the broadcasting industry. It wasn't very many years ago that to get into sports broadcasting at all at a professional level was almost by accident. There was no direct academic path into that. So to have that opportunity to mentor students in a hands-on professional environment like this, and we do. Believe me, like you said, 60 to 70% of our staff behind the scenes are students. And the unique thing is we expect them to perform at a professional level because of our reach. As Duff said, you know, we're in 60 million homes just on our linear television platform. So they have to perform at a professional level. And that gives them a huge leg up as they graduate from the university and then go out into the industry and meet with hiring managers at various networks and outlets around the country and say, oh yeah, I worked on a national network for 3 or 4 years while I was a student, and here's my resume reel, and that's really going to stand out.
Michael, you've been around a lot of different facilities. You worked at ESPN for a time. How does this building, how does BYU TV compare to those other places that you've been?
It's unmatched, especially at a university level. It is similar to ESPN, almost eerily similar to ESPN, and that's by design because when they designed this building, they went out and looked at major networks like ESPN and the Discovery Channel. So it's very much patterned after the successful facilities of ESPN. And so when I got here after working 7 years at ESPN, it was like deja vu. I'm going, I just left this place. I mean, even to the facade of the front of the building, it looks exactly like the primary building that we worked in back in Bristol. So our friends that are coming from ESPN today, some of them from the first time, will probably have that similar experience where they go, wow, this looks familiar.
Duff, you mentioned the contract with ESPN before, a lot of national exposure for the program. How has that contract evolved in these 5 years of independence?
Well, it just keeps getting better from the standpoint of collaboration. And like Michael said, we actually do have some ESPN people here today, and I had dinner with one of them last night. We drove by the building. The first thing he said is, whoa, looks just like Bristol. And so it's true, there's a lot of collaboration. We went back and met with them last year prior to the UConn game, and there's just a lot of discussion that goes on all the time. And really what we're trying to do is just get better in all areas of what we do, both with them, BYU TV, BYU Radio. I mean, nobody has a BYU Radio. We have hardly even talked about that opportunity to be on Sirius XM and to broadcast globally. It's unbelievable. Nobody has it, and we're just really fortunate that we have those types of relationships and everybody's working for a common goal, which is to have great programming.
One last question for you guys. So again, with all these former football players coming, both BYU alum, what is the game that sticks out to you most in the past 4 decades, Michael?
I think for me, it has to be an event that I was at and that I witnessed firsthand. And I was there for most of the holiday bowls, including the Miracle Bowl. But I think the most exciting game that I was at that still sticks out in my memory is BYU Oklahoma at Jerry World. Because to me, that was the new era of BYU. You know, we had the era that everybody kind of goes back to with the warm fuzzies, and certainly the national championship was a huge benchmark in BYU's football history. But to me, having separated myself a little bit from the university and working for ESPN, and then seeing my alma mater take down a vaunted program like Oklahoma in that setting, it gave me goosebumps.
What about you, Duff?
Well, I was there that night, and it did the very same thing to me, and I was trying to maintain a certain level of professionalism and not slide over to the fan side that night, because it was unbelievable. That locker room after that game was something I'll never forget. I was a student in 1990 when Ty Detmer and company took down Miami. So like you, it's were you actually there? And I was there that night, and the stadium, I get chills just talking about it. It was so electric. In fact, there was a point in the third quarter where, I mean, we were we'd been up on our feet the entire game, and I was getting to the point where I couldn't breathe. It was just off the charts, you know what I mean? And so I'll never forget that night. And I tell people, I've had the opportunity because of being in the profession to go to just about everything, the Masters and, you know, the World Series and NBA playoff games, and there's nothing quite like that Miami BYU game in 1990. And you know, we rushed the field after the game, and because no one gave us a chance. You want to talk about David and Goliath? That game was the perfect example, and you know, Ty Detmer and all those guys, they got it done that night, and it was an amazing night.
Well, this is getting me excited for the 4 decades of dominance coming up and all the awesome programming. Thank you guys so much for everything you've done today. And speaking of Ty Detmer and the 1990 Miami game, he is coming up next with his teammate Derwin Gray in just a few minutes.